Hey everybody, welcome to Facebook Live again. I'm your host Annette Hines, and I'm so glad to be here again today. It's just after 6 o'clock, and as usual, I am going to give just a couple of minutes for everybody to get here today. Hopefully, we'll have a bunch of people joining us. Please do let me know if you're here. Go ahead and post in the chat box. I'm going to post here and say hello, and hopefully you will chat back at me. And today's topic is one near and dear to my heart. It's grief and loss and how to survive the holidays during this time of COVID. Oh my goodness. I always talk about this topic during November. It's a topic, like I said, near and dear to my heart during this time of year because this is my grieving time. It's my remembrance time for Elizabeth. And Elizabeth's passing was November 18th. It is going to be 7 years this year. It is so hard for me to believe. I just, I can't believe it has been 7 years since she passed. So, um, this has been a couple of weeks that has been tough for everybody. It doesn't matter what side politically you're on, doesn't matter, how you've been internalizing or externalizing the stress that we've all been under in this country, and even externally, because I don't know if we have people who've joined our circle from outside of our country, but I know that based on the messages that I have been getting through my podcast and through Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all of the people that I'm connected with on all of my channels, that people have been watching us around the world. And there's been a huge collective sigh, not for the outcome, but because we have moved somewhat past where we are. So November is a time when we are heading into winter for those of us who live in a seasonal state. It's a time when we head into the holidays, and that can be a very challenging time for most of us who have a loved one with any type of disability. There's a lot of family issues that crop up that rear their, I don't know, ugly head, or that just rear up during this time. We've got this election, we've got this pandemic. Many of us have had a lot of loss this year. I know so many people who have lost loved ones. We are dealing with isolation. We are not able to get together with our family and have our traditions the way that we normally would. We're not able to travel the way that we normally would. We're not able to see our adult children or our adult siblings in the way that we normally would. Things are just different. And now our COVID numbers are rising. And I don't know how you all are feeling, but I'm feeling anxious on top of my normal feelings that I always have at this time of year of reliving some of my trauma and my grief and loss. And so I wanted to get together and talk with all of you about it. I'm hoping that sharing with you some of my strategies will be helpful to all of you, and that maybe you'll share with me some of your strategies. So I'm hoping that instead of having a lecture tonight, that you really will chat me up in the comments section. I want to, if possible, have a discussion with all of you, and that maybe you will continue the discussion after the video is over, because I think this is just going to be a hard couple weeks. I really do. Whatever holidays you you celebrate in your family. I think this is going to be an adjustment for all of us. So hello everybody. Hello Karen. Thanks for joining. Hello Ingrid. Thanks for joining. If you're here, let me know that you're here. I'm so glad that you could make it today. Again, our topic is grief and loss and survival during this COVID time. And as we head into our holiday season, into our increase in COVID numbers, potential new shutdowns, our governor here has decided that we've got some increase in, I don't know if you want to call it a curfew, stay-at-home orders are increased, and then I know that that's happening in other parts of the country as well. And, there's just increased concern over the rising numbers. And so we've just got a lot going on as always. So add to that this crazy election that we've been through that's not over yet. I don't even know what to say about that. And here we are. So a lot of change, a lot of drama and trauma. And, I'd just like to share with you some of my thoughts. So again, my daughter Elizabeth passed on November 18th. So as I get into this season of November, it's always a tough time for me. And so I am going to share with you a couple of thoughts about remembering your child or perhaps, your loved one during the holiday season. So this is a time of year when you get together with family. So let's just face it, it's not an easy time when you've lost a child, period. But during the holiday season, it's just going to accentuate that loss for sure. You see people that you don't normally see all year, such as grandparents, aunts, uncles, etc. You're going to take time off work so that you have more downtime and time out of your daily routine. That gives you extra time to think about your loss. And it's also particularly a time for celebration of children with gift giving and sweets and all kinds of things that just remind you of children. So I know that with the pandemic, that's different this year because we're not necessarily getting together in the same way that we always would. Having Elizabeth's death anniversary be at November 18th, it starts off this holiday season with a bang for me. So with this death in our family, new holiday traditions are evolving every year. And, everybody's new holiday journeys are going to be their own for sure. And with COVID, this is changing once again. Not an expert. And so listen, by no means am I trying to offer clinical advice here. For sure, I want to say that. But in my practice, I have certainly had the opportunity to speak with many families who have been through a loss like mine. So it's not an experience you want to share with families, but I have to speak from my heart and say that it is comforting to not be alone in this. And I have been so fortunate to be supported by so many wonderful, wonderful women and men who, although, they've had to live through this as well, have just been just so supportive to me and have been such wonderful, caring individuals to me. So here are some things to try that have worked for me. My favorite thing that has worked for me are telling stories of remembrance. My favorite and best advice ever. I just love, love, love telling stories about Elizabeth, such as, remember when Elizabeth laughed so hard that the sweet potatoes came flying out of her mouth and then the dog ate them off the floor. Ha ha ha, we all roll around laughing hysterically, and then we start pulling out videos and photo albums that can help with the memories. Some family members and friends may not have known your child that well, or or maybe not at all. Maybe, if it's been a long time, like for me, like 7 years, you're meeting people or talking to people who may have never met your child. Maybe people have married into the family and they've only heard stories and are only going to meet your child or your loved one. I keep saying child, but it could be another family member. They're only going to meet them through pictures and stories. And, so that is your opportunity to share. So this is going to help them enormously in both supporting you and in sharing your joys and sorrows. And I love the idea that it keeps Elizabeth's memory alive, because I'm always afraid that people are going to forget her and the world is going to move on without her. So I know that sounds raw um, and crazy, but the world does move on when somebody passes. The days keep turning, and the calendar keeps ripping off another day and another day, and there are people who we meet who have never met our child, and it is kind of crazy and mind-blowing. So the second thing that's a lot of fun in our family is a celebration meal that includes your child's favorite food items. So that's a lot of fun. In our family, I still serve some of Elizabeth's favorite things on certain holidays, like Christmas breakfast has pancakes and Easter definitely has ham. And so for many families, food is a part of the tradition, and food is love. It definitely is for us. So it also includes eating popcorn and pizza and potato chips and onion dip while watching our favorite holiday movies like Christmas Vacation and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. My third favorite thing to do in remembrance is hanging decorations that your child made. So I have to say at this point, thank you, thank you, thank you so much to every teacher, aide, and nurse who helped Elizabeth make every Christmas ornament, Mother's Day card, and Thanksgiving poem. I pull them out and I go through them and I hang them throughout the house to have her close to me during the holidays. And I do have a lot of them displayed here in my office. I don't know if you can see them behind me. I have them in the office at my house as well. But I still have yet so many more of them tucked away in a box. And I'm so grateful to every helper person who took the time to work with Elizabeth and create those treasures for me. I will never be able to thank you enough for doing that. So my fourth thing, and this is important, is that during my time of sorrow, and maybe this will help you, because it's always a time of sorrow for me. And, I don't know if everybody feels this way, but it really helps me to give to others. And it's a fact that getting up out of your own misery to help others can be just what we need to beat those holiday blues and to beat that sadness. So maybe you want to sign up to serve a holiday meal, although I don't know that anything like that is going on right now. So you may have to get very, very creative this year. Deliver presents or warm clothes at your local church or temple, or sing holiday songs at a local nursing home, although I don't think they're letting anybody in either. But find some way to give back to your local community. It is really challenging this year to find a way to contribute beyond just writing a check. And writing the check is not what we're looking for right now, because you want to have that connection. But I think there are still ways that this can be done where you can really contribute and feel better. So, number 5 was not really originally on my list, but I kind of added it later. And I added it because it came very late to me. I was late to the party on this one, and yet it's probably the most important thing, if I can be so bold as to say that. And that is self-care. Self-care during this time of grief is so important. If you don't take time for yourself to recognize this grief state that you're in and to allow it to happen, there it really can sort of take over. So you just may need time to be sad and grieve on your own. Now, be sure to seek counsel if that is in your self-care routine. Get lots of sleep, exercise, and eat well. The holidays can be stressful under the best of circumstances, and grief can be tricky. It sneaks up on you, I know from experience. This COVID time is even stranger. We already are off all of our usual routines. Maybe we are now finally in other newer routines. Don't know, but I still find myself sort of shaken up from my routines. Practice the art of saying no. This is a little bit harder because we're not cooking dinner for 20 people like we were before. Your saying no has to look a little bit different. Maybe you're not going to cook dinner for the family. Maybe you're going to have it delivered in. It still can be very stressful to do all that work. And maybe it's going to make you sad that you're not cooking dinner for 20 people. So maybe you can go out to dinner. Sometimes seeing people that you haven't seen all year can be super stressful. Sometimes not being able to see those people because of COVID will be very stressful because they are your source of support. So here's what used to happen to me before the COVID time. I used to get super anxious for weeks before the holidays about what people were going to say to me or ask me about, because they would come at me like, how you feeling? How you doing? You know, what's going on with you? Is everything okay? You doing okay this year? And so I would be sleepless for days beforehand worrying about this. And then I would be cooking and cleaning and getting ready for the day. What a recipe for disaster that was. So I was tired and sad and on edge. And then, of course, you can imagine the massive blow up, because I would either be completely sad and withdrawn all day, or I would blow up, or both. Not good, right? Not good. So last year, what happened was my daughter Caroline was old enough to choose for herself. It was her first year of being an adult, and she decided to spend time out of state with her dad and her grandparents. And I applauded that for her. I thought it was great. And my husband and I decided that to do my own self-care, we spent time hiking up in the mountains with our new puppy Bailey, and we had a Thanksgiving getaway hiking extravaganza, and that was wonderful. However, this year we can't do that. So, really just wondering what we're going to do this year. We still haven't decided. And I'm already stressed about it. So I hope that you all can find your way to, some both old and new traditions that work for you and your family. And I'm wishing you many blessings about that. Those are my suggestions under mostly normal circumstances. Now I want to address how we handle things during our COVID life. So, and I'm looking at my chat and I see that Mark is here and Vicky's here. Hi, Vicky. Hi, Ingrid. Yes, giving to others is such an antidote to grief. Absolutely. If anybody here, I see that we have quite a few people here today. If anybody here has experienced some grief and loss and wants to chat about it, please let me know. I would love to. I would love to chat with you about it. Hi, Christine. Let me know. Oh, it looks like Ingrid, you are getting restrictions as well. You can only have gatherings up to 10 people. Yeah, and we are not allowed to have more than people from three different families, three different, oh, I forget how they labeled it, but three different, um, three different families, three different branches of our family, or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to go, but anyway, with COVID and the restrictions on not being able to have large gatherings, I'm not sure how people are going to handle this and whether people are still planning on traveling. I've heard from several people that they are planning on traveling out of state. Nonetheless, there are some states that are not shut down like our states. So Florida, still not shut down. And I know several people who are planning on going to Florida over Thanksgiving, people who are planning on going to Florida over Christmas, people who are planning trips in January and February because they just need to get out of here because they are just going, bonkers in the head, and their kids are going bonkers in the head. So I totally get it. Totally get it. Um, I don't know whether we are going to have any kind of issues coming back. I don't know how people are handling that. I'm not sure how I would feel about traveling to see older relatives. So, is anybody that is listening now traveling for holidays this year to visit with people, or does anybody have people traveling in to see them? I would be curious to know. And how are you handling the testing and any restrictions that are going on? So please chat me up because I would like to know how you're handling that situation. The other issue that we have, and that's been a struggle for our family, for example, is my mom is older and she is with my sister right now. So we have to be super careful how many people she's exposed to. And my father in law is in assisted living and they have massive restrictions around him leaving and going places. So we are having a terrible time getting him out of there to be able to have dinner with him. So that has been very challenging. And I know that a lot of people are having those same issues with their elderly parents. So if you want to have dinner with elderly parents, what happens? So Ingrid says, I just had to get tested, came into contact with someone who tested positive. Cripes, that's scary. So, I worry so much about that. We just don't know. And if that happens, then, we have to isolate for several days until we know. And yes, and even if you have a negative test, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. That's true. And then that's really scary because depending on, where you're working, like our office is still open. And I think Ingrid, you still see people, I'm thinking. So, then you have to cancel clients. You can't, uh, we wouldn't be able to come into our office. So, things just get shut down and the numbers are going up. If that happens right before you're supposed to have your holiday dinner, you're not going to be able to see your family, or you wouldn't want to see your family. So, in the summer, we could socially distance outside. We would have people come over, we would have the food on a picnic table, we would sit separately, everybody would mask up, and, we would be able to manage. in the winter, when it's freezing out, we can't sit outside and eat dinner together. So, how are we going to manage this? I don't know if we are going to be able to manage having Thanksgiving dinner together. I don't know that we're going to be able to manage having our other winter holiday dinners together. So, I know there are some people who are going to take the risk, and then there are other people who just won't. But, we've been at this since March, and it's it's really wearing on people at this point. And I saw on the news, like I'm sure the rest of you have, that we are close to potentially testing a vaccine. That's great, but I don't know how long that means, you know, how long it's going to be before we are actually going to be able to get a vaccine out there into the community. I'm thinking that we've got many months to go. So I think that this holiday season is going to be a stressful and lonely one because of COVID. So I did want to let you know that I did a great podcast series on grief and loss to go along with this as well. And Gary Rowe, who is a minister and a hospice clergyman out in Texas, and who is a prolific speaker and author, has written a great series of books called the Good Grief series. He is not a clinician. He's written this from a real, a person-to-person experience. He has had a lot of trauma in his life, especially in his early part of his life. He just speaks to me, speaks to my heart. I love his stuff, very practical. And one of the things that I really like about Gary is that he doesn't subscribe to the, 5 steps to getting over a loss, this whole grief process. He really appreciates the fact that everybody's grief journey is individual. That's why I love Gary. So I had Gary come on the podcast, and we have 3 episodes. Yesterday's episode that aired was on the loss of a child and grief in general. Tomorrow's episode, which I'm so proud of, is on grief and teenagers, because they definitely process grief differently in their teenage brains than we do as adults. And I really wanted to talk about that because when Caroline lost her sister, my daughter Caroline lost Elizabeth, Caroline was 13, such an impressionable age. And she absolutely processed that grief very differently. And it was such an impression on her, and for her life, losing her sister at that age. So different for her than it was for me. And there's no way that I could understand that loss. And I wanted to put that show out there for not just for all the Carolines of the world, but also for all the moms of the world who are trying to understand their Carolines of the world. And then next week, we are airing an episode with Gary on suicide, because not only has suicide always been such an awful phenomenon in our community, but this year suicide has been even more horrific than ever, especially due to multiple issues that have been in our community. Lack of access to proper resources, proper medication, proper treatment plans, and the loneliness and isolation. It has been even more pronounced in our community. So I did want to do an episode on suicide as well. So that will be coming out next week, and I hope that you will all join us in the podcast. So that podcast is Parenting Impossible, the Special Needs Survival Podcast. and we will be exploring grief and loss with Gary Rowe. Okay, so does anybody have anything that they would like to contribute about grief and loss, the loss of a child, overcoming angst, anxiety, and a lot of issues that really bubble up during the holidays, and especially all of the things that we are facing during this time of COVID? Because I would love to hear from you, and I would love to know what you're thinking. If you want to ask me any questions, I wrote about this a lot in my book, Butterflies and Second Chances. So this is something that I was dying to share with all of you. And I will wait to hear from you if you have any questions. I usually get a lot of questions about this topic through Twitter or Facebook, and not so much on LinkedIn, because those are much more personal, and LinkedIn is much more business questions. But I've written articles on this and some blog posts, and you can find them on my site. Is anybody else feeling anxious about the holidays this year like I am? I'm already starting to get these bags under my eyes from lack of sleep. This is why I look this way. I have a headache today too. Christine says, sometimes it feels that others are more understanding of my grief during the holidays. Oh, that's great. So that's when I feel safe to take my mask off and just let the tears flow. Oh, Christine, that's wonderful. That's great. I feel more anxious at that time because I'm already anticipating all their questions, but I think that's wonderful. Is that a time, Christine, when you feel like, you know, you're taking your mask off? Does that mean that you can actually talk more? So Ingrid says, I've been sad about not being able to be with my family. Thanksgiving was my dad's favorite holiday. Oh, and since his passing, my mom makes sure to be present here with me. Wonderful. But this year she will not be able to be here, and it's very sad. I haven't seen my mom and brother since January. Oh God, Ingrid, I'm so sorry. They are still out of the country, I guess. They're not able to come back. I just know that about Ingrid. So I am so sorry about that. I am sure that that is just heartbreaking for you. And thank goodness you still have your husband and your daughter with you. But I'm sure that that is, you know, not, that doesn't replace the fact that your mom is not there with you. I hope that your mom has her own circle of friends and family that will help her celebrate where she is, because she, I'm sure, is also feeling sad about not seeing you and your daughter and not being able to be together. That's gotta really hurt. Oh, my husband says no bags under my eyes. He's very, very funny. Does anybody have any tips that they want to share for holiday survival or thriving during the holidays? Hi, Cheryl. Thank you. My words are always so kind. That's sweet. Thank you. Cheryl, do you have any words of advice for folks whose adult children are maybe not able to come and be with them? You know, if somebody is in group home living or shared living and they are not able to participate in a family tradition this year, any thoughts about how people might be able to celebrate anyway? I've been thinking about that. Some places are letting people drop off food, so I think that's great. I think most places have really have opened up now and are allowing people to at least drop things off or have a meetup outside. But as it gets colder, I'm not sure how that's working. And Cheryl, I think that you have visits at home, at your home with Nikki. Oh, yes, definitely give yourself a break from guilt and understand that you're not alone. So Mark says that the new puppy has helped us. So I agree with that. The dog has been so helpful to me. First of all, I go for walks, which is my meditation time, and that has been super helpful. Make plans now for the holidays. Yes. It helps to know what you're doing. At least it helps me. I like having a plan for sure and not perseverating on it. Ha! Just what we tell our kids not to do. Isn't that awesome? So Nikki's not at home and doesn't value the holidays, which is helpful. That's great. But we value the holidays. And so even if our kids don't feel the loss, sometimes we feel that loss. All my family relatives are on the East Coast, and I'm usually unable to visit them at the holidays. I generally go out and do a hike with my dogs in some beautiful nature areas. Oh, that's great. So that's what we did last year, Dulcie. Mark and I, when we were not able to be with family, and I was missing Elizabeth so, so much, and Caroline too, we went out for a hike. How about having a meal together where the computer is placed where a plate would be? Oh, that's nice. I like that. That's a good idea. I still like my idea of making the person's favorite meal so that you can tell a story about them and remember them. But that doesn't work for everybody. Some people just can't sit with the memories, and that's okay too. If you are not prepared or ready and you can't sit with the memories, you can cut yourself a break with that too. That is okay. You do what you can. The perspective is as if the person is sitting there. Yes, right. I get that, Cheryl. That's awesome. My sister does this with her mom-in-law. I like that. I think that's cool. Some people do that with pictures too. That's really nice. Anything else? People do that with decorations. And again, if you are feeling like that's too much for you and you just can't handle it and you need to, kind of get out of that environment, that's okay. Cooking together online, that's nice. Those are nice ideas for people that are still alive and you're able to connect. I like that. Send a tree or other holiday ornament. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And you can send a meal in to if it's your child, you can send a meal into your child's group home environment. If they allow that, hopefully. I haven't heard of anywhere that you can't do that. So hopefully that's true and okay. But now's the time to be asking what the plans are. How can you share some time, share the experience? What can you be doing? Whether it's Thanksgiving or whatever winter holidays you celebrate, now's the time to be asking about those things. And of course, you want to ask your child too. Want to include them, right, my person-centered planning friend? It really needs to be about them too, and not just about what you want, as Cheryl will tell you. So I think that I'm gonna take the last couple of comments and kind of wrap up here because I've been going on for 40 minutes because I actually got started on time today. Woohoo! And just say to you, for anybody that is feeling really blue over a loss, that is having trouble managing their grief, please do not hesitate to reach out and get help. Okay? This is not the time to try to go it alone at all. And if you are feeling overwhelmed by what is going on with this COVID season and the holidays and anything else that may be going on in your personal life, I will be happy to talk to anybody. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. If I can help you, I absolutely will. I sent my parents a gift of a box full of pieces of paper, and on each paper was a short story of a happy memory of me growing up with them. Oh, Dulcie, that is so sweet. I love that. Yes, person-centered. This is the very best year to start a new tradition. I so agree. And Mark says, I love Dulcie's idea. So do I, although that sounds like a lot of work and I'm already tired just thinking about it. Okay, my friends. Without any further ado, I am going to get ready to sign off. The website Storyworth is a wonderful service that prompts you to tell stories of your life each week for a year. Yes, that's great. What a great way to share. And you know, you could even do that if you wanted to have remembrances of somebody that's passed too. So, I mean, that's a good way to work on a history or memories. So that's great. I love that. So again, I'm going to put that offer out there. If anybody is really struggling, if you are experiencing extreme sadness over a loss, I really want you to reach out and connect. And if I can help you, I will. I certainly hope that you'll recognize if you need some clinical help. But certainly, please take care of yourself. Please be well. Please enjoy your family during this Christmas, winter holiday, Thanksgiving, whatever you celebrate season. And as things get tougher out there with COVID and we, are starting to isolate again, please know that you are not alone. We are here. We will connect in whatever way that we can. This Circle of Care community will always be here for you. And with that, I'm going to sign off this video, and I hope that you will join us again next week. Now, next week is the actual official anniversary of my daughter Elizabeth's passing, so I will not be here with you because I do like to take that day for myself. I hope that we will have a guest host. I don't know who that's going to be yet. If not, we may not have our circle. But if we don't have our circle, then I promise you I will be back the week after. Okay? So I'm signing off, and I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye, everybody.